Hello, my name is smith-sousis. I'm going to be doing my Chassis 1 project for Mr. Howarth today. Today we're going to be doing how to remove and replace a tire and also how to remove and replace your front brakes. First thing that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking off the tire and putting on a new one. To do that, we're going to need some tools. One of the tools that we're going to be using to remove the lug nuts is going to be a lug nut removal wrench. For my car specifically, I have a 2003 Hyundai Elantra. It uses a 21mm socket on there. Another thing that we're going to be using today are chocks. These are basically tools that are used to stick behind tires or in front of them to prevent a car from rolling either forward or backwards while on a jack. The last tool, but by far the most critical tool that we're going to be using today, is the jack. Without this, we wouldn't be able to jack the car up and take the tire off. So one of the first steps that you're going to be taking when you want to take a tire off is you're going to want to make sure that your e-brake is on, and you want to place your chocks behind your tires to prevent it from rolling. So it's right in there. Make sure they're in there sturdy. And your e-brake's on. Every vehicle has specific jacking points. On mine specifically, we have it right here behind the driver's side tire. There's also 3 other ones right in front of the back tire on the driver's side, on the passenger side as well, and also on the passenger side on the front, right behind there. The next step that you're going to do is, before you jack your car up, you're going to break the torque off of your lug nuts. You're going to do this. That way when your car's up on the jack, you're not going to rock your car back and forth or bounce it off the jack. So let's get that. Alright, now you're going to jack your car up just far enough to make sure that the tire is up off of the ground. Alright, once you get there, you're all set. After you have your tire up in the air, a tip that you can learn and that I picked up after a while is you could take an old tire if you have it around, or a tire off of somewhere else, and put it underneath your car, just like that. That way, if for some reason your car does fall off the jack or roll backwards or something like that, while the tire is off, it's not going to fall down on the rotor or anything like that and break any other more expensive parts. Alright, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take off your lug nuts. You're going to take these all the way off, but you want to remove them in a star pattern. That way you don't put pressure on any one individual spot, and your tire will come off evenly. Alright, after you get them hand loose, you can just twist those off there. Alright, this is the last lug nut right here. After that, set those aside. Make sure you keep them together. You don't want to lose those. Alright, and you're going to take the tire off. Right there. Alright, on these, once you take your tire off, you're going to want to inspect your tread, make sure everything's good, make sure you still have some mileage on there. Check the inside, make sure your rim is okay. Alright, that's good. Alright, some of the tools you're going to need to take the brakes off of this car, things that'll be useful is a lug nut wrench. You're going to be using this to put the tire back on when you're done. Right here I have a 3/8 drive with an 18mm socket. That's going to be to help us take the boot off. We have our new brake pads here for when we replace them, and then a C-clamp. Now this right here is going to be used to compress the piston when we're taking off the old brakes, just to make it a little bit easier on ourselves to put the new ones back on. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the boot off. You can do that by removing these 2 bolts right here, just behind the caliper bolts. Alright, after you take those out, you should be able to rock your boot off. You're going to want to place that off to the side there. When removing your brake pads, once you have your boot off, you want to look at your rotor, inspect it, make sure that there's no nicks, cuts, bumps, chips out of there. Right here, everything seems to look good. Alright, when you pop your brake pads out, you want to look at them, and you can see the difference between these right here. The worn down ones compared to the newer ones. You can tell that the brakes were pretty badly used, but they still had a little bit to go before they needed to be changed. Now when you're putting your brake pads back in, you want to make sure that you're putting the right ones back in the right order, making sure that the matching pad goes back where the old pad that matches it was, just like this right here. Pop that in there. Alright. And then alright, so right here what I did is I put the one new brake pad in there, and I used the old brake pad to put on top of it to sandwich the C-clamp on there to compress the piston in here to make it a little bit easier and make more room to put the new brake pads in. After you put the new pads in there, you want to pop the boot back on, and then you want to line up the holes for this bracket right here and also this bracket right here. Alright, so after you put your boot on and you get your spots lined up, you're going to put your bolts in there and you're going to tighten them down. Now that you're all done tightening those up, it's time to put your tire back on. Alright, now that we're ready to put this back on, we got to line up our studs. Once we get those on there, once you get those on there, you're going to want to make sure that you keep those even. You want to get your lug nuts on there, hand tight. Alright, after you get those on there, hand tight, you're going to want to tighten these down. Make sure you do that in a star pattern. That way, like removing it, you want to get your tire on and off evenly. That way you don't cause any further damage. Now, we're not going to put these down as tight as we're going to have them when it's over. But we're just going to put them on tight enough to where we know the tire's not going to move when we take the weight off of the jack and onto the tire. Alright, so another tip, just a reminder to take the rim and tire out from underneath your car when you put it there earlier to prevent any rocking or swaying and you landing on your rotor. Take that out, and then after that, you're all set to lower the jack. And when you lower your car off the jack, you want to make sure that you do it slow. That way you're not all of a sudden putting all this pressure onto your shocks or any of your suspension. The last thing that you're going to want to do before you're finished up is you're going to want to pedal on your brakes and press it a few times just to make sure that your brakes fill up, and each time it should go back less and less, like you saw there. After you're done putting the car down and pedaling your brakes, filling it back up with the fluid, you want to make sure that you check your area for anything, any old parts like the old brake parts or any tools that you had laying around, just to make sure you have everything and everything that came off the car made it back on. And that right there will complete my demonstration on how to remove and replace the tire, and also how to remove and replace your brakes. That'll conclude my final presentation for Mr. Howard's Chassis 1 class.